Today's episode is sponsored by Globally Paid. Globally Paid is a service that integrates payment acceptance into any software to help businesses scale faster and without friction. Globally Paid handles credit card processing, fraud protection, payouts, dispute alerts, and chargeback management. And Globally Paid is all about great relationships, global payments, custom tech. Everything begins and flows with compliance. For more information, visit globallypaid.com. Hello, I'm Tony, and welcome to the Tony Shap Show. Well, welcome back, everybody. Today we have a special guest. His name is Rob. I can't wait for him to share with you who he is, what he's all about, and his company. So I wanted to first off say, Rob, welcome to the Tony Shap Show on behalf of me and our listeners.
Tony, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, you're so welcome. So as you know, and we were just talking before we started recording, I have top 10 with Tony, and it's rapid fire. And, we're all in the results economy. We have to produce paychecks. We have to produce results. So I want to be sensitive to your time. And that's why the theme of this show, I just kind of go through it. And also with our listeners, there's a lot of founders, CEOs, and leaders like yourself that are listening. So with that said, if it sounds good, let's dive right into for the very first question. What is your one word open, Rob? How are you feeling right now before we get started?
Awesome.
Love it. Great. So how did you get started with your business? Tell us all about that, how you got the story for how you got it started, where you are today, and where you're going.
Sure, absolutely. So about 3 years ago, my business partner, Andrew, and I got together, and we realized that there's a big gap in the cybersecurity market, specifically for small and mid-sized companies. And just to define that, that's like 500 employees and less, where cybersecurity companies were really focusing on enterprise organizations, but that small to mid-sized market was, pretty well being ignored. We actually started as cybersecurity consultants. So our teams would go in and do assessments, testing, training, build policies and plans, traditional sort of consulting practice. And when the light bulb went off at one point in time where we realized there was an opportunity to build a SaaS platform to deliver those services. So we said, hey, if we could build a piece of software that could do all of these things and deliver it, in a recurring revenue model, that'd be cost effective and easier to use for small business, that'd probably be pretty revolutionary. And boom, we launched with Defendify. And Defendify today is an all-in-one cybersecurity platform that's specifically designed for small and mid-sized companies.
Awesome. Let's talk about recent wins, Rob. So tell us what's a recent W that you were able to put on the board, so to speak, that's important to you, close to your heart, and what you learned from it. So also, that way when we're listening, we could also be right there with you and experience that as well.
Well, I think there's lots of wins that are going on, but I'd love to share with you a thought about being a founder. So back in 2009, I sold my first security company. And for me personally, that was a huge win, but it's also sort of positioned me now into starting Defendify and doing again. And the one thing I learned in that sale of that business was that, if you build a company with recurring revenue, you're probably going to build a pretty substantial organization that when an acquirer comes along, they're probably going to pay you a pretty significant amount for the sale of that business. So the one thing I learned from the sale of that company is recurring revenue is a valuable asset to an acquirer. And if you can build a company around it, it makes a lot of sense.
That's powerful. Yeah, I couldn't even agree with you more. So, if you have a good MRR, it's and reoccurring, you work hard once to get the client, and then you got the reoccurring coming in. So it's attractive to a lot of investors.
Right. You have to retain them too. You don't want to have the churn. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Churn is, attrition is a big monster that's there that we don't like to talk about. And speaking of, we don't like to talk about what we don't like to talk about, let's talk about failures. I think when we all have failures, we learn from it. And it's not really a failure if you learn from it, right? So it's all mindset. It's all about finding a solution. So share with us a recent failure that you had and what you learned from it, Rob.
Okay. You know what? Maybe this is going to be surprising to you, Tony. I would say selling my first company, the same one, the one that was a win, I would say it was a failure as well. And the reason why is it wasn't about the fact that, I sold the business and got a nice check for it, because that was true. It was what ended up happening after that. And the way I describe it is I call it selling without a purpose. So it happened so fast that I sold the business and moved out of the company right away, and without any purpose following that. And those were even though I had money, it was some of the toughest days following that as a founder. I had no purpose. I had no plan. I didn't know where I was going to go next. What was the next company I was going to build? Where was I going probably spent over a year, maybe making the best garden in the neighborhood and just thinking about where I was going next. It was extremely stressful. And I think one of the things from a failure perspective is that if I went back, or when there's another opportunity for that to happen, I think it's really important for someone like myself who works large amount of hours, super passionate about what we do every day, trying to solve these problems, is that there has to be a plan following that, or else you get to this point where you go from 13-hour days to doing absolutely nothing and sitting there. So I would say I learned from that. We call it a failure in the sense that there was no plan following that. And as I look forward in the future, I think that I'm going to be more prepared when something like that comes around again.
Thanks for sharing that with us. I know there's a lot of people that are in the middle of an exit, or that's what they ultimately think about. But what you said is really important, because the money is one thing, but if you have to have a purpose. Wow, Rob, thank you. That's a really good one. So let's talk about expenses that you have today currently with your business. Tell us, what's your biggest expense that you have today?
Yeah, here at Defendify, it's definitely our people. We have an amazing team that we've assembled here, and payroll and health expenses and all those different things that come into play are surely the biggest cost inside of the business today.
Great. And since I'm in the payments business, I've been in this business since '96. I have to ask this question. It's always fascinating for me. Where would you say your cost for accepting payments fits in the top 10 of your expenses?
It's definitely in the top 10, but I wouldn't say it's in the top 5. Where we fit in from, I know you probably want an exact number. I'm not sure exactly where in the top 10, but we surely, as a SaaS company, we are taking recurring payments from our customers. So that payment system is super important to us running our business properly, for sure.
Excellent. Let's talk about your your favorite online business tool that you use currently today, like day in, day out. If there's one tool that you couldn't live without, what is that?
An interesting tool that we have deployed is Chorus. So Chorus is an integration tool that integrates with Zoom, and it transcribes the meetings that our sales reps attend, and then does analytics on it. So it can actually tell us, specific aspects of the conversation. So as an example, if a competitor's name is brought up, or a specific feature set of our solution, it can provide you graphs and information around that. So what it can do is it can allow you to analyze, what prospects are saying, and also how your sales reps are performing in those meetings. Very powerful tool, really interesting. So if you're ever wondering around, how are the sales calls going? How's everything moving along? And you don't want to go and have to jump into every call with them. This tool will sort of bring you up all those important factors.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about your best resources for acquiring new clients. What is that for you today?
Today is the freemium model of Defendify. When COVID hit, our team quickly moved to a freemium model. We wanted to offer free tools to the small business marketplace to help them protect themselves when they made the shift to work from home. And that has been a massive part of our growth in our business. We have thousands and thousands of companies who have come in and started using our freemium tools to help protect themselves. And when they start using that, they learn more about Defendify and how cybersecurity is important, and start to engage with our team to learn about how they might be able to bolster more cybersecurity inside of their business.
Excellent. Let's talk about questions. So whenever you're giving talks, of whether it's a webinar or investors or someone that you're speaking to, or you're doing a keynote or something like that, what are, I know everyone asks the common questions, but Rob, what is that one question you wish the audience would ask you, or someone in the audience would ask you, but no one ever does? What is that one question that you would love for someone to ask you?
Oh, that's a good one. Maybe something like, why have you started your startup in Maine? That's an interesting one. We talked to lots of startup founders who are all over the country. Everyone sort of feels like tech startups should be in Silicon Valley, and maybe that's shifting now with everyone working from home. But the fact is, Maine is an amazing state to live and work in, and the startup community here is actually exploding. It's unbelievable what's going on. I'll share with you a few of the things that are happening. So. There's a couple of groups that are coming behind startups here in Maine. The first one is the Maine Technology Institute, and they're an organization that's providing grants and development loans to startups who have an idea, with the goal of them growing and getting employees to come on board. The second one is Maine Venture Fund, and what they do is they eventually, once you get your product and your solution to market, they may come behind you and provide you an equity investment in your business. And the last one is the Finance Authority of Maine, and this is interesting, and I think is a big part of the growth as well. Is this group will actually provide out-of-state venture cap groups who invest in startups, and also private investors here in Maine who invest in startups, 40% back in their investment in the company. And that comes in two ways. It could be a tax credit, or it could actually be a check that's written back. And the whole purpose behind it is to invest in startups, to grow them here in the state of Maine. So we are seeing startups starting to bubble up here in Maine, people moving to Maine to start their startups. Again, work and live in a great place. That's pretty exciting, but also the fact that there's organizations like this behind them to help support them. So Maine is up and coming. I think the whole Northeast is up and coming for sure.
That's awesome. Elon Musk, if you're listening, take Rob's advice. Maine. I know he just got out of California. He announced that he's moving out of California, so Maine might be a good
We'd
place
love
for
to see him here, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be good for the economy. Cool. So sadly, as we're coming to an end here, tell our listeners how they could get a hold of you, your website address, and if they have any questions about this conversation, or they want to find out more, or if you have demos that people want to set up to, what website should they go to learn more about you guys?
Yeah, go to defendify.io. And again, if you're interested in getting some free cybersecurity tools, you can do that. You can go there and sign up and start using those tools. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way to reach out to me and connect.
Awesome. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes for everybody. And here we're at the end. Let's finish it up with a one-word close, Rob.
I'm going to go with thankful.
Thankful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Tony, for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, Rob. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. And one of the biggest takeaways, you gave us a lot, but one that's really powerful to me and our listeners that are listening, and whether they're driving or they're watching this now or in the future, I think what you said was really moving. You have to have a purpose on your exit, because if you don't have a purpose, then it's like, now what? Right. So thank you very much for sharing that. And thank you very much for coming onto the show. And I can't wait to have you on here again.
Thanks, Tony. Take care.
All right. Take care. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed it, and great to have you, and thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. Till next time, onwards and upwards.